Hey guys, welcome to the Golf Podcast Live. We reach a milestone today, of course, this being episode 100. I'm your host, Raphael Calamat, in Toronto, alongside Michael Bleakley, as usual, my co host in Vancouver. And celebrating our show today is a special guest who is one, a golf coach, two, a broadcaster, and three, now an author. Let's welcome our special guest, Mr. Mark Immelman.
Hi, boys. It's good to be with you. Pardon all the ambient noise. I'm sitting in Atlanta airport waiting for a flight to head over to the United Kingdom. So if it's a bit noisy, do forgive me, but it's good to be with you.
No problem. You sound loud and clear. And what's on the agenda as soon as you get off the plane? Why don't you give us a rundown of what your plans are for the next couple of weeks?
Well, I flew in early this morning from Illinois in the John Deere Classic and the broadcast out there, and a little bit of a layover here in Atlanta airport. Fly tonight, arrive London tomorrow morning, and then the family and I are going to Wimbledon in the afternoon, which is a thrill. And
Amazing.
then we'll head up to jump on the train, head to Edinburgh on Thursday. I'll do some recon and stuff for the Scottish Open at the golf course Renaissance. And
Hmm.
then we've got the show on the weekend, Saturday, Sunday. So that's that. And then
Wow.
it's Open Championship week thereafter. So it's all sport now in the UK for the next couple of weeks.
That's pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who don't know, Mark is on CBS, PGA Tour Live, and on the Mark podcast. And make sure you check him out. You may or may not know this because we have a vast audience that we've compiled over the last 3 years as being our 100th show. Uh, Mark is brother to Masters 2008 Masters champion Trevor Immelman, who is the
Yeah.
2022 President's Cup captain. He's also a TV analyst right now. And we're here to pick your brain, Mark.
Okay.
The Open at the Royal Troon is July 18th to 21st in Scotland. We're going to talk maybe a little bit about your career and your opinions, maybe a funny story. We always like to
Mm-hmm.
get a funny or an embarrassing story from one of our guests. And
Okay.
finally, we're going to talk about your new book called Lessons from the Best, and it's available on Amazon. Tell us a little bit about this book.
Raphael, honestly, my entire life, with thanks to golf, I've been around really smart people, and I've been very fortunate to spend time around a lot of bright and really incisive minds and good players and such. And through my podcast on the Mark, I've interviewed so many great golfers and great teachers and great coaches that I was looking at all this, and I was reading a transcript one time and looking through our guest list, and it occurred to me, I'm like, this is like a treasure trove of just golf information, golf improvement
Yeah.
stuff. And I've always wanted to do a book, and I've done an ebook before called Scandalously Simple, the simple way, straight way to hit shot, easy way to hit straight shots. And so I reached out to a publisher. I'm like, I've got this stuff. I want to write a book. And they came back with like, yeah, let's do it. So it was a project that began about, well, a year and a half, maybe two ago. And it started with going through all of these podcasts we've had, and we upwards of 700 now, I think. And we had to
Wow.
condense this. And so we had a poll for our fans around the world. And we said, pick your favorite podcast. And then we kind of got all the results, and we picked basically, I think it's 17, maybe 18 guests or podcasts that were really good. And we got all the transcripts, and I picked out nuggets, quotes, and stuff from there. And I basically built a chapter on each guest. And so I'd have the nugget, the quip or whatever it was, the anecdote, and I'd build an explanation or like a golf tip around there, or golf tip or two. And the goal with me being quite holistic with instruction, it was just always to bring a complete view to golf instruction. So the
Mm.
mental, the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, the course management, the fitness, the whole thing. So the book is from tee to green. It's from the top of the head to the tips of your toes. And it's just me elaborating on some very smart stuff I've heard from guys like Bob Rotella and Butch Harmon and David Ledbetter and Jordan Spieth and Ernie Els and Nick Price. I mean, it's a who's who in there, and I'm actually quite honored to put this thing out because it was quite a thrill.
Is there anything that stands out to you in the book, like some of your favorite lessons or insights from any of these people?
I'm going to go top of mind here, I guess. There was so much stuff. There was a great one by Jordan Spieth, and he was on the show, and you can imagine how Spieth is very candid, very smart, very thoughtful, and he spoke about everything from his torrid time and when he won everything in 2015 to the slump he went through. And at the end of the conversation, after he talked about his putting and his wedge game and everything, I mean, it was incredible to listen to. I said to him, Jordan, okay, let's say it's the end of your life and young Sammy is growing up and you want to write your memoirs for your son. Is there anything you know for sure? And he looked at me and he kind of gave me a platitude to start. And then he stopped himself. And he was like, yes, I'll tell him that it's not the critic that counts. And I looked at him sort of quizzically and he goes, you know, looking back over my career right now, it's hard to think that someone so young is doing that. He goes, when I was at my best, I was doing things that everyone criticized me for, like my weak grip and my bowed left hand and my leg action and all this stuff. He goes, and I worked to try and change that stuff. He goes, now, honestly, I'm looking back on it and all these youngsters are trying to do what I was doing back then.
Wow.
So he said to me, he goes, I would say to Sammy and to anyone I was giving advice to, obviously all the book readers and the podcast listeners, that you're going to have your fair share of criticism, but sometimes you just mustn't listen, or sometimes you must take it all with a grain of salt. And I thought that was so appropriate given who he is in the game, what he's achieved, the struggles he's had, and he's lived it all. So it was incredible advice, and I was thankful that he would share it.
Well, that's pretty amazing. I'm fascinated. I'm an instructor as well, Mark. I'm celebrating 25 years now as a coach and instructor. Thank you. Turning 50 was a milestone in itself as well.
Yeah.
But we've had a lot of great guests also who were instructors like Jim McLean and even players like John Cook. Amazing insight they've given us over time. And even your friend Greg Ducharme was on recently, and we talked a little bit of golf. But let's pivot a bit and talk about the Open Championship. It's over at Royal Troon. Obviously, it's a link style by the sea. Unpredictable bounces depending on a lot of things, the wind, these pot bunkers that look like something out of World War II. They're all over the place. You really have to dial in your irons. And when I went back last night and looked at that final round between Mickelson and Stenson, I was amazed on how many irons were off the tee, how precise you had to be on all your approach shots, where you're going to land it on the green. These are all things we talk about on a weekly basis, but it's really, really shown well at this golf course. You need an iron game, don't you?
You do. I mean, Royal Troon to me is a really cool golf course. And what's characteristic about it is you travel out and then you travel back in. And so with the prevailing wind direction, you're normally downwind going out. And so you'll see people almost shooting the grass off the place. Then you make the turn and you come back in from the 10th hole, and it just beats you about your gills because they're long holes. There's out of bounds on the right-hand side. There's the pot bunkers you talked of. It's just very demanding. So you'll see guys get under par early and then sort of hang on for dear life. And if you get any heavy winds whatsoever, par becomes a really good score. Something about it that I find curious is it's been very friendly to American golfers. If you look at the Roll of Champions there, you've had like Arnold Palmer, Weiskopf, Watson, Justin Leonard went over there. And so it seems to favor the Americans for one or other reason. I don't know. Might be because it's the iron game centric. But I do know one thing's for certain. Striking the ball well coming in is paramount because the targets are smallish. They're well bunkered and well guarded. And when you're playing into the wind, as you guys know, any misstrike is exacerbated and the side spin is just magnified. And so you got to hit it around there. There's no doubt about that. But it's all a function of what the weather is like. I mean, if the weather lays down, they'll shred it. If the wind gets up, it's going to be a handful. But there's no doubt. If you look at the champions, Stenson, Weiskopf, guys that really hit the ball, that's kind of the order of the day around there.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Let me just say that we do have sponsors, and we just want to thank them very quickly. ECS Evolve Creative Solutions for all your media builds, Nude Beverages, your ready-to-drink flavored vodka soda, obviously Castilla Roofing in Florida. Make sure you call Mike Kelly, and of course, one more. Who am I forgetting, Mike? Lagmaster Sports, Mike
Mike
Dickson,
Dickson.
top
Yeah,
100.
Mike.
Yes,
Yeah,
he
Mike
said to
Dickson.
say hello as well. He knew that you were coming on. I was just speaking to him yesterday. And the book is Lessons from the Best. Now, if I look at some of these players, I'm pretty fascinated with the qualifying process. Obviously, there's 4 venues. Top 4 players get to go into the Open, as well as some recent wins. And I'm going to mention a few notables. Although there's 16 plus players going in, there's a field of 156. It looks like it'll be a more than 156 at this event. But here are a few names: Justin Rose, Abraham Answer, Ewan Ferguson. Anything stands out there? It almost sounds like a bad joke where an Englishman, a Mexican, and a Scot walk into the bar.
Um, well, that's the beauty about qualifying for the Open if you haven't earned your way in through rankings or whatever. Because I remember living over there, and when I was teaching full time on the European Tour, you go to some great links golf courses that nobody has ever heard of, courses that are just close to the Open Championship venue. And to see someone as decorated as a Justin Rose, major champion, one of Europe's great golfers, going to qualifying to try and earn his way in, that speaks to how venerable the Open Championship is and how much it means to these competitors. And then an Abraham Answer, you have to tip your cap to him because he's playing on live, and they don't get the world ranking points, so he had to go and qualify. So it's one of those things where it's dog eat dog, and those qualifying tournaments, they don't respect titles or what you've done in your career. So good on Justin and company for going in there and earning their way into the tournament.
Mike, if you remember correctly, last year, Brian Harman really took it. Mark, by 6 shots. It's, I think he's a little bit underrated when it comes to that style of golf, and it may suit him well once again. But the runner-ups were Tom Kim, Sepp Straka, Jason Day, and John Rahm. So those 5 names I'm mentioning: Brian, Harman, Kim, Straka, Day, Rahm. Does any of those stand out to you two guys?
I would say Brian Harman does stand out to me because last year, the week prior at the Scottish Open, he was playing in the penultimate group alongside Bob McIntyre. And I had their group for both Saturday and Sunday. And Brian was hitting the ball pretty solidly, was chipping and putting incredibly well. And I remember saying to my on-course spotter, I'm like, man, this guy might be a good bet next week. And we kind of laughed at ourselves. And then I was walking down 17 with Brian. And I was like, man, I love your game right now. And he goes, yeah, I'm feeling good. Next thing, a week removed, he's an Open champion. So he's no one to scoff at when it comes to an event like the Open, because if the wind gets to blowing, he's reliable from tee through green. He's got an unreal short game. And he's the kind of guy that's just kind of blue collar, and he'll guts out something when conditions get hard and grindy. So Brian does stand out to me. Look, John Rahm is... who knows right now? Last time we heard he was injured. He had injured his toe. He hasn't played anything of substance in terms of competition and stuff. So I'm keen to see where his game is. But the one thing about the Open Championship, it's cool about it, but it's not so cool. If you get on the wrong side of the draw with the weather, then you're basically playing for something else. So, but of those, Harman definitely does stand out. Straka stands out, but Sepp didn't play very well last week at the John Deere. So I would say give me Brian Harman out of that group.
Great.
Yeah, I agree. I think Brian has proven he's a fantastic ball striker, which we all know is needed at the Open Championship. I mean, and it's hard to discount Rahm. Like, yeah, he's got injuries. You don't know where he is at with his game, but he has that ability to show up and surprise us. And the Open Championship tends to deliver a surprising winner occasionally. So it's one of my favorite events to watch.
Oh, there's no doubt about that, Mike. I'm really excited about seeing this. I'm also excited to see what's going to happen at the Scottish with 3 spots still available. The top 3 guys in the Scottish Open are going to be able to get in. Ben Curtis and Paul Lawrie are standing down finally, so that's nice to hear. Leave some room for some boys to play. I don't know how you feel about this, Mark, but Daly and Duval are still playing. They have some sort of exemption. I don't think that's all that great. I don't get me wrong. I followed their whole career. I love to watch them play. Love to see a great story, but outside of a tremendous one round, I don't see them making the cut. Your thoughts on that?
Well, to be truthful, if you're talking about the Open Championship next week and not the Scottish Open, I was not familiar with the fact that they were in the field. Look, they both won the Open Championship, so maybe that's the qualifying criteria.
Yeah, probably. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you know what? I hear what you're saying, and to a certain extent, I agree. But then, the Masters is very close to our family because of my brother having won there, and so I like to see the old guys play. I love to go to the Masters, and I like to see Jose Maria try and make a run at the Cup, Olazabal that is. And, I taught Larry Mize back in the day, and to work with him, it was kind of their major, to go and make the cut and stuff like that. So, in a way, it's TV worthy, and I think it's entertainment worthy. Yes, it does take a spot away from a young competitor, but you know what? They didn't stumble into winning the Open. I mean, they earned that with a win. So
it's a privilege, right?
Yeah, of course.
It is, and it's a game of history. So they earned it, Raf. Yes, it is a privilege. They've won. They've earned that lifetime exemption. So if they feel like they've got a shot, they should be out there. And we do like to see the veterans grind it out. And if that prize to them is making the cut, then so be it. But it's only 2 spots, and they're not going to play forever. So let's see them out there, and maybe something cool will happen. Like, look at Phil winning the U.S. Open a couple of years ago. Pardon me, the PGA, and let's see these old guys have a go at it, since we are all one of them.
Yeah, you know what? I think it bodes really well for players who have had a lot of experience, Mike, and I totally agree with you. You get players like Ludwig Oberg, who maybe is used to playing European golf a little bit more, but there's something to be said about experience. So I'm going to side with both of you and say, I hope John and David have a great tournament, and they're well deserving to be there. But certainly, I'm not crazy about it. If I look down at some of the headlines, did I read this right, Mark? Is Keegan Bradley going to be the new Ryder Cup captain? I had to bring it up because it kind of irked me because they shafted him on to go to Europe. They lose. They bring him in as captain. I don't know how I feel about that, but hey, I'm just a podcaster.
I was on a flight this morning coming in here, and we got we got rumors of the facts. I don't know anything concrete just yet. I've been here in the lounge doing some work and stuff. But yeah, I've heard a lot of rumor about Keegan getting the job. Apparently, there were some other names in the hat. I know Stuart Sink was under consideration, as was Webb Simpson. Look, Keegan, if it is indeed Keegan, I need to look at the news wires. He would be a great captain. He's a passionate guy. If anyone's going to charge the guys up, and if there's anyone who's really well respected in the locker room by the other players, it's Keegan. Now, I'm with you. He deserved a pick, I thought, last year to go to Rome, but it didn't happen. But maybe this could be his moment, if indeed it is the truth. Like I say, I have not read anything concrete just yet, but I know the rumor is rampant.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of. Sorry, Raf. I've been a fan of Keegan on and off the course, and he's got a lot of balls, if you will. So I think he could rally up the locker room really well, and he's got a little tension with the Euros. If you remember him and Angel Jimenez, face to face on the course several years ago. I think there's a lot of passion there, and that'll transcend the locker room. So I wouldn't be too upset with that pick.
How about a player captain? How about a player captain choice? You never know. That would be pretty amazing. That would really redeem him from that position. And we talked to Jim McLean, and we were talking about. It looks like the kid's skiing all the time. He's down, his posture, his knees are bent, the toe of the club is up, his hands are so low. I remember seeing him for the first time and thinking, my goodness, I just want to pull him up by the shirt. Just say you stand a little taller, but that's just me as an instructor thinking that. And Jim was saying he's a downhill skier. That's his background. He used to be a skier. And so, the joke translates really well.
I tell you what, I was going to just say to your point with the posture. He is kind of hunched over, but he uses his legs unlike anyone. And that guy, it's the center of the club face is regular. You could set your wristwatch on him, how well he hits it. And if you had to catch me and shake me and go, okay, top 5 ball strikers on tour, Keegan Bradley would be on my list every day of the week.
Really
interesting.
Mark, you got to one of the greatest jobs, following these players. I think to myself, Mark Zucchino is a friend of mine, and he comes on the show. We talk about the golf swing and the players, and to stand behind them and walk with them and see this class performance. Because if you haven't gone to a golfing event and you've just seen it on television, I'm just going to say, make it to the President's Cup in Montreal, go to the Canadian Open, or if you're in the US or anywhere else in the world, just go and watch the ladies or the men play. You'll notice that you don't really play golf. I played golf at a high level. I'd never really played golf. When you watch these guys hit the ball, and it's coming off the club face, I'm still amazed to this day at the age of 50 to watch these guys play. So, do you pinch yourself sometimes when you're walking and you're watching these elite athletes?
I have to mind my tongue that I don't drop a holy when someone launches a ball at 190 miles an hour. I mean, yesterday afternoon I had Michael Thorbjornsson and Luke Clanton in a group. Michael's just turned pro, won the PGA Tour University standings to earn his card, and then Luke Clanton's this young amateur. And these two kids hit the ball. I mean, the thing takes off like a homesick angel and just goes forever. And I was watching them, and they are fearless, and they play with swagger, and it's like they feel like they belong, and they just still green around the gills a little bit. So, the players when they play, if you watch a McIlroy, it's honestly heavenly the way they hit it, and just the way they maneuver a golf ball around the place, the speed, the power, the athleticism. It's hard to describe, but I'm going to be on the call at the President's Cup in Montreal. I would say to all your Canadian fans, show up there, please. The international team needs you. But you'll have some fun too, because it's fun to watch these guys at full flight when they're at their best.
Yeah, Mike and I were there in 2007. I was covering for CJAD Radio out in Montreal. I'm also former assistant professional at Royal Montreal, so I know the club. I will be there, so we'll make sure we say hello.
Yeah.
So where are you off to now? You're off to the Open. You're staying in near Troon.
Well, we've got the Scottish Open this week. So,
right. You're going there first. Right.
Yeah, I'm heading to Edinburgh on Thursday, and then the Renaissance Club is down the coastline there, the East Coastline, which is unreal for golf. You've got Gullin around there, and you've got Muirfield, and you've got North Berwick. We stay in the Marine Hotel, which is it abuts North Berwick, and that golf course is unreal. And Renaissance is just down the way, and of course, over the Firth, you've got St Andrews and Carnoustie and all those places. So it's golfing heaven. So we're there on the East Coast this week, and then it's the West Coast for the Open in Troon next week.
Hey, Mike, you could tell us about your Scottish roots.
There we go. Yeah, Mark, my great-grandfather was a superintendent at the Old Course St. Andrews.
Really? Cool.
Way back in the early 1900s before moving to Canada. So my blood, goes all the way back to Scotland. So, I got a fondness for the area, even though I've never been yet. But Raf and I are going to go over soon and binge golf in Scotland first, and get in touch with my history.
It's a wonderful place. I mean, I married a Scottish girl. Her dad actually grew up just very close to Royal Troon. So I get what you're saying. I mean, it's like those people, they golf is in their soul. And it's so nice to spend time around them and see those golf courses and how they approach the game compared to what we see here in North America.
I'm just jealous about one thing. I'm not able to take my dog on the golf course here. I mean, it's almost a normal thing up north in Scotland, where you could just take your dog and play holes where you could just pay as you go. They've got all these municipal golf courses, supposedly, where you could just drop some money into a box and play some pasture golf. It sounds amazing to me.
It truly is. I mean, look, well, like the old course is a public park, and you'll be walking across the Swilken Bridge there towards your tee shot or your second shot on the final hole, the home hole there, and people are walking their dogs around the place. But that's part of the allure of the thing, you know. It's golf, and it's available to everybody. I mean, St Andrews happens because of golf, and a lot of these golf courses, they are kind of the lifeblood of the community. I mean, the train station stops next to the course, and they honestly live and eat and drink and breathe golf.
Well,
Yeah, I remember a lot of players. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say you can see it when you watch the Open Championship on TV. You can tell the fans are knowledgeable, how they applaud a shot, and it's noticeable that they're not out there to crush as many beers as possible. They are true enthusiasts of the game. So it's real fascinating to watch.
You know what, Mark? We're going to wrap things up. I'm going to get your pick for the Open and your dark horse. And while you think about that, Mike's going to think about it as well, and I'll mention what mine is as well. And Mark, I want you to think about a funny or embarrassing golf story, whether you were broadcasting or playing golf. Don't hold back. The first thing that comes to mind, and we'll get your picks. You know, I'm going to go with Bryson. Just because he's been playing pretty damn good at every single major this year. He hasn't had the opportunity to kind of show himself on the PGA Tour for obvious reasons, being on live, but I'm going to stick with him. He's figuring something out. He's straightening out that driver. He's got a new driver, and I don't think he'll be playing, lots of driver because he hits his 8-iron 250 yards. I'm exaggerating, obviously, but it's just he hits it so far. Mm-hmm. And, my dark horse is going to be Matt Fitzpatrick. I know he's a local favorite, and you know what? I really feel that he might play well this time around. Mark?
Go ahead, Mark.
Go ahead. Okay. You know what? In terms of picks, I'm vacillating a little bit between Ludwig Oberg and Tommy Fleetwood. Now, I've got my eye on Bryson a little bit, but I just feel like it's time for Tommy. He's just so reliable from tee to green. He's played well at the Open before. He's been close. He's finished runner-up. So I just get the feeling that there's something percolating a little bit there. So I like Fleetwood, but you can't avert your eyes from Scotty Scheffler. Let's be real. So I'm not completely on board. But I like Fleetwood. I like Scheffler. I like Ludwig. And then my dark horse would probably be, this is recency bias here, but I watched him play this weekend. I called him. Davis Thompson is playing beautiful golf right now.
I agree. You know what? Yes.
And he is going over there with all sorts of confidence. He has got no weakness in the game, and he's got a really quiet mind. And at the Open, sometimes with the weather and stuff, you have to be able to keep, stuff organized mentally, and he does that as well as anyone.
Well, Mark, I think you're living between my ears right now with those picks. Because Raf, when you mentioned picks, my first thought was Ludwig. I have a feeling he can break through this week. And I love Tommy Fleetwood, even though he's not a pick. I would be thrilled if he took home the claret jug. But Davis Thompson was going to be my dark horse as well because he was so impressive to watch this weekend. I feel that one of those would be great. Scheffler, obviously, will always have a chance, and we would not be shocked if he pulled it off. But he's got enough trophies right now. Let's see one of our picks get it.
Yeah, I've got to do some honorable mentions with Brooks Koepka and Hideki Matsuyama just because they're such good iron players. So to throw them in the mix. And everybody's, pulling for Rory. Let's do this finally after 10 years, with that missed 4-foot putt. I don't know how much he's going to be able to live it down, but he's played so much golf in his life. I think we make it out to be bigger than it actually is. He might be really upset. He was caught on camera in that moment where he found out, didn't stick around, didn't shake his hand, wasn't there for the medal presentation. Whether they do that or not, I don't remember, but isn't there a silver medal presentation usually? At that event.
So, yeah.
But in any case, there's a lot of honorable mentions. It's going to be wild. I love watching links style golf. And Mark, a real special thank you for coming on. The book is Lessons from the Best. Get it on Amazon. Look forward to hearing and seeing you.
Yeah, and I guess you want my funny / embarrassing story, right?
Just about to say, hey, don't let him go yet, Raf. No, let's hear it. I bet you have a good one.
In terms of the funny ones, I guess those are to be kept in the locker room a little bit. But I'll share an embarrassing one with you. When I was sort of somewhat new in television. I had done some radio, and so when you're on the golf course, you have this little basically self-production box on your hip that flicks you on the air and off, so you can talk on air. And when for you to hear me, I turn this box on, and it turns my mic on, or I can switch it off, or then I can speak to my producer by turning the key the other way. And so it's toward the end of the show, and the host of the show, who's a legend in the world, he's doing all the show wrapping stuff and all of the, thank you for joining us, and it's sounding like poetry at the end of a very good day. And I'm going to radio my producer to say, okay, am I clear? And so instead of hitting the producer key, I flick it the other way, and on live air over the top of the host, there's me going, hey, am I clear with my job now, basically?
Right.
Oh, goodness gracious. And I quickly flicked off, and I felt about the size of an ant at the time. And it's something, looking back, I laugh. But at the time, I think I was the color of a beetroot, because I was awfully embarrassed.
Well, it's not as embarrassing as David Faraday's stories. I mean, him shitting himself on the golf course and then interviewing Tiger. Stories like that, I think, go beyond anybody's story. But, thanks for sharing. Thanks for coming on. Again, the book is Lessons from the Best. You get it on Amazon. Real special thank to our sponsors again, ECS, New Beverages, Lagmaster Sports, Castillo Roofing. Have a great trip. And hopefully we'll get around, and maybe we'll see you at the President's Cup.
All right, you guys take care. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I appreciate you joining us. Have a great one.